Goslin. I am this summer's archivist at the Anglican Diocese of Ontario, and I'm here to present to you the Archives Showcase. Today, I have the great fortune of presenting what I believe is one of the finest artifacts in the Diocese archives, a 600-page medieval manuscript written by Benedictine monks from 1449 to 1454. The book is in untouched condition. The pages are a combination of both parchment as well as vellum, and it was written with iron gall ink and red gouache accents. There's multiple fonts in the writing, indicating multiple authors, and it was likely a compilative work from multiple different contributors over that course of years. It is marked by remarkable figural filigree throughout notable sections of the work, and is also decorated with delightful hand-related marginalia all the way throughout the entire book. The manuscript is bound in hand-sawn oak boards with a half-panel pigskin leather as well. The leather is tooled with images of lions, griffins, as well as stars and floral motifs. Overall, it's a remarkable text, and we are very excited to present it to you. The book was produced and used by Benedictine monks, as I said, from 1449 to 1454. Based on our investigations, we believe that the book was produced and housed at the Peterskloster in Erfurt, Germany, otherwise known as St. Peter's Church. It was a Romanesque basilica originally constructed in 1060 CE. 20 years later, it burnt down, being a wooden structure. It was then rebuilt over the course of nearly a century, being completed in stone in 1174, following what was considered the Hirsau Reform, an architectural movement that took place in monastic structures throughout Germany in the early medieval period. Peterskloster was very close to the Palatinate in the Petersburg Platte. As a result, it hosted many famous German monarchs over the course of its lifetime. This included Frederick I, or better known as Barbarossa, who stayed at the monastery during his Reichstag in Erfurt, Germany in the 12th century. This monastery was not only significant theologically, it was a courtroom, it was a mediator for diplomacy, and at times, it was even a place of military convention. In 1382, however, the Black Death raged through Erfurt, Germany. It killed 16 monks as well as the abbot of St. Peter's. It was a devastating experience, and it took several years for the monastery to come back on its feet. Then, in 1517, Martin Luther pinned his 95 Theses to the door of the Cathedral of Wittenberg, launching what became the Protestant Reformation. St. Peter's Monastery became a site of pilgrimage, as well as a site for meeting of people who were insurgents against Luther's work, and as a result became a vital aspect of the Catholic Counter-Reformation. However, after over 2 centuries of fighting, both civil as well as European, the monastery was dissolved in 1802 and became a Protestant parish church in 1806. So what we have gleaned from the manuscript is really just scratching the surface. It's a combination of both ancient Latin as well as Proto-Germanic, and as a result, it's very, very difficult to read. However, it can be summarized as follows. St. Benedict's Rules, the Confessions and Meditations of St. Bernard of Clairvaux, as well as, of course, Jacob of Utervock and his calls for discipline and order within monastic life. The text opens with Benedictine penitence, and in doing so, it provides a tabula super utilioris materias, also known as a tool for exploring and investigating the works of Thomas Aquinas. It then shifts into the artes moriendi, otherwise known as the art of dying, which was part, very vitally, of the latter end of St. Benedict's Rules. St. Benedict of Nursia, who lived from 480 to 548 CE, is considered the founding father of Western Christian monasticism. He established several autonomous societies throughout Italy that later became monasteries, and he wrote the Rules of St. Benedict originally as a set of precepts in 516 to be used by these monastic communities. The rules are quite famous for the fact that they explore the interrelationship between personal meditation and spiritual guidance with communal life and collaborative efforts. This book and its inclusion of these texts in our manuscript would have been not only theologically important on a spiritual level for the monks of Peter's Cloister, but it would have also been a very functional work as well. The manuscript then shifts, and it provides us a copy of the Meditations of Bernard of Clairvaux. Bernard of Clairvaux, who lived from 1090 to 1153, was a Burgundian abbot who was very famous for his advocacy of the revitalization of Benedictine life through the new Cistercian order. Clairvaux was famous for asceticism, his advocacy for ascetic life, not only in monastic situations, but even in physical structures, and he engaged heavily in the discussion of iconography versus idolatry. He is also very famous for his integral role in promoting the Crusades, and is considered one of the founding fathers of the Knights Templar. In this text particularly, the Confessions goes over what he believed were necessary attributes of ascetic life within Benedictine rules. Comparably to the rules of St. Benedict that were provided just prior in this manuscript, this would have been vital for these monks in Erfurt, Germany, not only from the perspective of understanding their own heritage, but furthermore, for ensuring that they were living and abiding according to the laws and rules of their forebears. In the last third of the manuscript, we are introduced to the Scrupulosus in Regula Sub Benedicti, which is more or less a discussion of discipline within Benedictine life by Jacob of Jüterbog. Jacob of Jüterbog was born to an impoverished family in Brandenburg, Germany in the 15th century. He entered a Cistercian monastery in Poland, and the abbot of that monastery saw that he had potential not only as a monk but as a theologian, and sent him to study at the University of Krakow. There, he achieved not only a Master of Philosophy but a Doctor of Theology as well. He returned to his monastery, but in 1441 felt dissatisfied and frustrated with the lack of discipline amongst his orders. As a result, he went to the papal legate in Basel, Switzerland, and requested that he be transferred to the order of the Carthusians. He ended up in the Carthusian monastery of Salvatorberg, which was located very close to St. Peter's Church in Erfurt, Germany. There, he expounded multiple different sermons, and he wrote over 80 different treatises. He also lectured extensively at the University of Erfurt, which he became the dean of in 1445. The text that we have in this manuscript quite possibly could have been taken from one of his many lectures or one of his many written pieces. Either way, it is contemporaneous to his work and is incredibly rare to find in its original form of text. We are very fortunate to have it, as it provides insight not only into the monastic life of these monks, but also into the academic journeys of Erfurt, Germany itself. The book concludes with a single sheet of music which stands out from the rest of the text entirely. This is written on vellum rather than parchment, of a much smaller dimension than the other pages, and is also done not only with black and red ink, but also with green accentuation in a very different font. As a result, I theorize that it was taken from an earlier 15th century Psalter. The piece itself opens with Super Flumina Babylonis, or Psalm 137, and would have been used in Mass for Feria 5 of the first week of the Passion. How this incredible manuscript wound up in the hands of John Travers Lewis is not known to us. However, we can decipher from the stamps and his inscription in the beginning of the book that he likely brought it with him from Ireland into Canada in 1849. Then, in the 1880s, he at some point loaned it to McGill University of Montreal to be investigated. Of course, eventually thereafter, it returned back into his ownership. Then, many years later, we have been very fortunate to have it given to us to become part of the diocese archives from the generosity of his family. Join us next week, where we will be exploring the wonderful life and times of one of our own parish churches in Berryfield.